Good day, grade 12s, and welcome to our telematics session today. I'm joined here today in the studio with my good friend and colleague, Mr. Peter Edwards.
Good afternoon.
And we are going to have a nice afternoon with you. And guys, just a couple of things before we start. I just want to show you the contact details for Mr. Lester Momberg. You can contact him if you need or have any queries regarding today's presentation. You can find his Gmail address there. There's also the WCED portal where you can access today's content. And guys, unfortunately, the WhatsApp number will not be working today. They are still busy fixing that. So guys, without further ado, we are going to get into the gist of it. Right, guys, you can read this to request access to the website. Just make sure that you follow those processes and procedures, and that you should be able to get access to this content. Right, now guys, we are going to speak today about team performance and conflict management. Now guys, this is a nice topic. It's one of the topics that I really enjoy presenting. It's a bit of industrial psychology, which happens to be my subject of interest, or my major when I was at university. Right, so there's going to be a couple of terms that you guys need to remember, and if you can identify them from case studies and those kind of things, it would be to your advantage. And of course, you must also be able to define it. So let's quickly go through them. Right, the first one is conflict. Conflict means a disagreement between two or more people. And guys, in any institution where there are more than one person working in a business, there is bound to be conflict. So that's one thing that any good manager needs to learn how to solve. Right, the next one is a grievance. Guys, that one is quite important. There are two concepts that you learn in business studies. The one is grievances and the other one is conflict, and there's a big difference between the two. And oftentimes our learners, when they are faced with discuss the grievance procedure, they go straight into how to manage conflict. And guys, these are two different things, very different, and the difference lies in the definition. So let's quickly go through grievance. A grievance is a complaint by an employee against the employer or a fellow employee. I'm pretty sure we will touch on that also a bit later. Then guys, we are also doing the Tuckman hypothesis. Tuckman believed that teams go through different stages before they become very productive, and those stages are the following: forming, when they first get together. Then we have storming, where they oppose one another and vie for leadership positions. Then norming, when the team starts to normalize but they are not completely a performance team yet. Then performing, the last one of course being their adjourning. Then also the definition for teamwork there, the willingness of a group of people to work together. And the last bit of that sentence is very important: in pursuit of a common goal. If people just work together, it's not teamwork. We need to pursue a specific goal that we are all agreed upon. Right, and then we have cooperation or collaborations, and that is the process of working together to achieve similar goals. And we're also going to look at interpersonal attitudes, the attitudes that the different team members have towards one another. Right, so guys, make sure that you know these terms. It is going to be incredibly important for you to know how to identify them from case studies. Also, it is very important for you to be able to define these different terms.
Ms. Van Tel, I just wanted to add something there. What could be used there? Those definitions, very nice questions for your multiple choice type questions in your section A. So keep that in mind. Those definitions can be very important for those section A questions.
All right. Okay, Mr. Edwards, are you going to take us through the criteria for successful
I
teamwork?
can do that. Okay, if you don't mind just popping up on the screen there. So we're going to have a look at the first thing, which is the criteria for a successful team performance. All right, we've got 4 aspects there which are very important to ensuring that we have success and the team is performing to the ability which we expect, or to their potential. So the first thing that we have a look at is the interpersonal attitudes and behaviors amongst the team members. So we want to encourage one another in the pursuit of the goal. Again, as Mr. Van Zyl said earlier, we want to make sure that everybody is working towards the same goal. As soon as you start to move into separate directions, it means that the team is not going to be performing to the best of their ability. All right, then we move on to the shared values and mutual trust and support. What is critical in a team environment is that you trust those around you. Right, so team members respect one another despite differences that they may have among the team, and also they accept that everybody is able to work towards their potential and has something to gain or contribute to the team's performance. All right, the next one is communication. Communication, the role of every team member is set out in the procedures that the team must adhere to, and each and every one of these individuals in the team needs to be able to communicate, not only from within the team, but also from the management. So management needs to be able to communicate their requirements, their goals to the team members. The last one is cooperation or collaboration. That's all about working together. Each team member knows exactly what they are expected to do because the goals are clear. Team members are willing to work with one another in pursuit of the goals of the team. Again, looking at ensuring that you accept each other's differences and you have the main goal in sight. All right, so that's the criteria for successful team performance.
Mr. Edwards, if I may, guys, if you look at some of these words there, you get 2 things. You get interpersonal and intrapersonal. Interpersonal is the relationship between different people in a group. Intrapersonal means I'm doing introspection, I'm looking at myself. So that is just what it means. Interpersonal means between one another. I also want to just elaborate on the whole idea of communication. Some of the memos would say that the communication channels must be open. Okay, that means that we should not interfere with other people's ability to speak. Right, you would hear some managers have what they call an open door policy. Yeah. An open door policy means I'm open for you to come and make suggestions, and you should also be accepting my criticism or feedback that I give to you. Without feedback, we cannot grow. So that is what communication is all about, and it's very, very important. And guys, the last point that makes teams effective, we can, like me and Mr. Edwards, we work together, but if we don't pursue the same goal, then it is just 2 people working together and we don't get synergy. Synergy means that if I put 2 people together to work towards the same goal, the outcome will be amplified. And what I mean by that is it's almost like an equation to say 2 + 2 = 5. If you put 2 people together and another 2 people, the outcome would be worth what 5 people could have done, not 4 people. And if we get collaboration, we can get that. That means we need to work towards the same goal, not each one does its own thing. Then teamwork doesn't work.
I think, Mr. Van Zyl, what I often do in the classroom is I'll use this criteria for successful team performance, and I'll use the analogy of a sports team. You can recognize very quickly when these criteria haven't been met in a sports team. You'll have certain players doing their own thing. There's no communication. There's no cooperation. They don't trust each other. Maybe they are giving the ball to a specific player. So there's not that trust that is required in order for that team to perform at their potential. So if you are wondering, if you're looking for a way to understand this section, often you can look at a sports team, and many of you are probably involved in sports teams. You watch sports teams on TV, and you can see when things are working to the best of their potential or their ability, and when they're not. There's certain teams out there that you can identify now that maybe there's a little bit of infighting taking place, and maybe they need to be looking at some of these criteria in order to succeed.
Right. Mr. Edwards, the last thing that I'm going to say on this slide, I don't want to spend so much time that we only do one slide, but it's going to be very important, guys. What you will find here is you might get a case study in which these things are hidden. They tell you something about a team, and you need to go and identify the criteria for successful teamwork in that case study. So now that requires you to understand what this says, not just by the bullet points, but actually understand what it means so that you can correctly identify it from case studies or scenarios. So just be aware of that.
100%.
Right. Now, why is it not? Oh, there's a last thing that's just a tip. The criteria for successful teams serve as a guideline on how teams should interact with each other when working on a project. Right.
All right, so let's have a look at some of the characteristics of successful teams. And now think of that example that I had. Maybe you've got a sports team in mind where you can identify some of these characteristics. First and foremost, successful teams share a common goal as team members are part of the process of setting goals for the group. So you can identify maybe a sports team out there where you can see that there is not that common goal. They're not working towards something specific. Maybe that hasn't been communicated to them, but they're all working in separate directions, and inevitably it's not going to be successful. All right, the next one is there's a climate of respect and trust and honesty amongst the players or amongst the team members within a working environment. Right, the next one is share a set of team values and implement group decisions. Often, if there hasn't been a specific set of values which each team member prescribes to or the team prescribes to, you can identify that there's going to be issues going forward. Successful teams have sound intra-team relations. Now, Mr. Van Zyl referred to the whole concept of intra-team relations. That's the relationship that is within the team, all right? And that needs to be sound in order for it to be successful. Teams value the contributions of individual members and reach consensus on those differences. So the whole point is you respect that people might have different points of view to yourself. You are willing to accept that maybe you are wrong, and also you are willing to accept that there are contributions from people. What you don't want is many, and what actually often happens in these circumstances is that some individuals are quiet. They're very shy to contribute their points of view, because they might be shut down, they might be ignored. So the important thing is that you need to realize that each team member has a contribution or opinion when you are dealing with problems or some decision making that needs to take place. So again, this is probably something that you could identify out of a scenario. All right, so please keep that in mind when you are looking at the characteristics of a successful team.
Mr. Edwards, if I may, sure. I just want to give you guys a heads up here. You can see that the memo for this one speaks about the characteristics of successful teams. There are two different memos here. Now I'm quickly going to go back to the previous slide, which said criteria for successful team performance. Now guys, how this question could be asked is, for instance, to say discuss the criteria for successful teams, and then you might see that the mark allocation for 2 marks is like 6 or something. Now guys, whenever you are asked to discuss the criteria, name the criteria first and then one of those bullet points for your second mark, or your third in some cases. Now guys, please beware, this is the memo when they ask for criteria for successful teams. The next one is characteristics of successful team. Don't be confused here. Read the question carefully. If they ask for criteria, it's the previous one. Characteristics is this one. Please make sure that you know how to distinguish between the two.
All right. So the next section that we're going to go through is the stages of team development. Now, this is a very, very popular question that you will probably come across, if not this year, but next year as well. Okay, Mr. Van Zyl referred to it earlier when we were looking at the terms to remember within this section. There are 5 stages to this process. You will see them in front of you now. It's forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning. So rather easy to remember, and this could be asked in the form of a section C question. It could be asked in the form of a section B question, or in a multiple choice type question. Now, so we're going to discuss now what actually happens within each of these stages. So as you can see on the screen there, forming is right at the beginning of the development stage, where you're starting to meet the people that are going to be involved in the team, finding out details about them, their name. You're not really identifying too much about them at this stage, okay? But it's a case of when you are meeting new people, it's a little bit awkward, and you're slowly but surely going to start to get to know them. All right, so that's the forming stage. Now we move on to the storming stage. And as you can see in that image, it looks like there's a great deal of conflict taking place. All right, so this is synonymous with the whole concept of storming. This is when you're starting to vie for a position of leader within the team. There might be a conflict that takes place, arguments, people disagree, and it might be a stage where some people decide, okay, well, I'm not necessarily wanting to be involved in this team. And many teams actually get stuck at this stage, and they don't necessarily agree to disagree, for example, and move on to the actual norming stage. And that's the next step that we're going to move on to, where you start to accept that you might disagree with someone. You start to accept who your leaders are, what roles each person has to play in the team environment. So you're starting to get getting used to how people perform within the team. Everybody seems to have their position, their role, and you're starting to get used to the whole concept. From that, you move to the performing stage. And now this is obviously when everybody knows their role, you've got the leader in place, and you are now performing to the potential that is expected of you. This is where you want to get to as quickly as possible. Obviously, all those stages are very important in the team development scenario, but you want to get to the stage of performing to the best of your ability as soon as possible.
Mr. Edwards, if I can just add,
Sure.
in the performing stage, one of the outline characteristics here is that the individual team members now can work autonomously without anybody telling them what they need to do. Everything is just fallen in place. Their systems, their processes, everybody knows exactly what they need to do. So nobody tells you what to do. You basically just do what you need to be done. And there's a lot of trust. You know that this person does this, they do that. I'm not going to interfere with what they do because they do it better than me. This is my job. I know how to do this. Nobody checks over your shoulder. The team just does what it almost naturally does what it's supposed to do.
All right. So that's a performing stage. As I said, you want to get to that stage, but also the previous 3 stages are necessary. The storming stage is necessary for people to express themselves so that you get to know where people fit in. The norming stage is essential so people start to accept what role they play within the team environment. Right. Then the last stage is adjourning. Now at this stage you have performed, you've achieved your goals that you planned out from the beginning, and it's generally the end of the project. Right, so adjourning is possibly looking at how did things go? You're monitoring and you're evaluating the success of the project. That would all be within the adjourning stage. Okay, so there are 5 stages in this team development. Very popular question, so please keep it in mind. You should have in your core notes some further details that you would be able to provide in a section C type question. So please, just emphasis on this section.
Right. Mr. Edwards, I've also seen these questions come up quite nicely in section A.
Yeah,
where they give you a little small scenario and you needed to say what stage of team development it is. I've also seen it in case studies. It's very rare that they ask you to explain each stage or whatever. They may ask you to list it. That I've seen before. And the most that I've seen is from a scenario or a case study where you have to apply your knowledge and actually say what stage of team development this is. So make sure you understand these team development stages.
Yeah, they won't necessarily ask you to discuss all 5. Okay, because we're limited to about 6 or 8 marks within section B, long questions. So you might get an opportunity where you've got to discuss maybe 2 or 3, but you wouldn't be expected to discuss all 5.
Right. Okay. We're moving on to Mr. Edwards, the importance of team dynamic theories. And if you don't mind, if I can just quickly tell them something
100%.
about this. Guys, last year in grade 11, there was such a big portion of the curriculum cut. And one of the things that were cut was team dynamic theories. You guys never did the Belbin role theory and MTRI and Jungian and all of those nice theories, which is a really nice section of work to do, but unfortunately it was cut. So much of this memo that you are going to see is going to make very little sense to you because we haven't done team dynamic theories with you in grade 11, but yet it is still assessed in grade 12. So guys, this is, I hope you will listen to Mr. Edwards now clearly, but the problem that you're going to face here is that the team dynamic theories was cut from grade 11. Okay, so just to keep that in mind.
So we're not necessarily going to be discussing the theories themselves. We're just going to look at the importance of considering team dynamic theories in improving team performance. All right, so team dynamic theories are used to explain the effectiveness and the importance of teamwork and how best you can take advantage of team environments. Tasks are allocated to team members consistent with the role the team member performs within the team. Remember, if we relate that to the stages in team development, that would be the norming stage, where you're identifying your space within a team environment, and then you go on to the performing stage. The next point here would be the skills of the team member determines the role that will be allocated to him or her. Obviously, you don't want someone in a position where they don't enjoy the role or they're not competent enough to actually be performing that role. So it's important where managers, and this is where it's critical for managers to identify where people fit in that team environment. What role are they going to play? Where are they going to be best suited so that we get the best potential out of them? The next one is individuals are given the chance to perform optimally within the team given the roles allocated to them. Related to the stages, this would be the performing stage. People accept that the team members are good at what they do and they're on the right position, which results in the team reaching that potential. Individuals within the team with similar skills may compete for certain responsibilities. That's not necessarily a bad thing. When competition is taking place, it means people are going to try and perform to the best of their ability or outperform the person that they are competing with. So it means you're getting the absolute best out of your staff, out of the team members. All right, so that's the importance of team dynamic theories in improving team performance.
Right. Mr. Edwards, I just quickly want to just give them a bit of background on team dynamic theories. Guys, a theory is almost call it the supposition of an educated guess that a person makes. Now, in this case, there was, it could have been psychologists and all of these different people came up and studied teams. And each of them, there were a number of theories that we were supposed to do. Each of them came up with some kind of idea of how they think teams should be put together. Most of them has got to do with the individual team members' personality. Right. You can think of Carl Jung, McGarrison, McCain. You guys will probably in your working life encounter something called, cannot now remember the name of that specific test that you do, but it's a personality test.
Aptitude.
Yeah, like aptitude. And basically what happens then is you will be allocated into a specific team based on your personality, because that personality, more so in many cases than the skill that they have, the personality brings a dynamic to the team. Now, you cannot have a team with too many of the same personalities, then you clash. So you want to get the most out of the team, and each member contributes something else based on their personality, right? And that is how you put a team together. You can imagine if you have 3 or 4 or 5 different people that are all very good at doing research, no action will take place because everybody will just do what they prefer to do, and that is to do the research. But when the tire hits the road, nobody actually does something. So you need somebody that can do the research. You need somebody that doesn't really like research, but they like doing once you give them a task to do. You need somebody that can complete things. You need somebody that can look at the detail of the task, and other people who can gel, make the team gel together. You need different personalities in each team, and all of these theories have got that in common, that you cannot have too much of the same type of thing. You need differences in people in order to bring the synergy out of the team.
Yeah, and these days many managers, when they right at the beginning of a project, they'll actually ask their staff to take this personality test so they can identify where the best these individuals are going to be fitting in. What role do they need to be doing to actually bring the best out of the individual, but also the team at the end of the day. All right. So now we are going to be moving on to certain causes of conflict. This often comes up in a question like list certain causes of conflict, or you might have a case study where you have to identify the cause of the conflict. All right, so there's a number here. Again, we're not going to expect you to be remembering all of them. Okay, you're going to be expected to remember maybe 4 or 5 at most. All right, so let's have a look. Maybe 1 or 2 you will identify with. Okay, first and foremost, differences in background. This is obviously a big one because people, their background is going to give you a bit of an idea as to their opinions and what they are going to, or how they're going to see a certain situation. So their background is very, very important. Ignoring procedures, cutting corners, as others would refer to. Maybe identify that there's an individual within the team that is ignoring procedures, ignoring steps that have been put in place for a reason. All right, lack of cooperation. Okay, again, going back to that whole concept of cooperation, the ability to work with others. Some people are not necessarily as patient as they need to be with regards to a team environment. So a lack of cooperation can cause conflict. Personality differences, quite similar to the first one, because often your personality is based on where you come from and what you are like. Some people just don't get along. If we go through that personality test, which Mr. Van Zyl referred to earlier, you'll be able to identify certain personalities clash with another person, and you'd almost be able to predict or forecast that this was going to take place. So in some ways, you want to try and avoid that. All right, lack of recognition. Now, what does this mean? Lack of recognition, obviously people want to hear that they've done a good job. Well done, brilliant job, nicely done, fantastic. These are certain things that managers often are guilty of, the lack of recognition. They don't necessarily reward good work and recognize that the team or the individual within the team is actually performing well. All right, so that can be a big, big cause of conflict. Unfair workloads. Now, you've all been in a project environment where one individual or 2 individuals are suddenly lumped with all the work, and the only way that you're actually going to get the or reach the deadline of that project is that those individuals are going to have to do all the work. So that often results in conflict, and maybe you've experienced that in a project group environment where one individual hasn't maybe done their part of the job and you've had to take that over. Also, I mean, there might be a request from management to complete a job, and that actually links to the next statement: unrealistic deadlines. Maybe you've been given far too much work in order to do in a small period of time, and that will create anxiety, create stress, and inevitably often stress results in conflict. All right, lack of proper communication. We spoke about communication in terms of the criteria for successful team performance. If there's a lack of that communication, then that can cause conflict and misunderstandings. All right, so these are certain causes of conflict. As I said, this could be in the form of a list, some causes of conflict, or you might have to identify this sort of thing within a case study. So keep this in mind.
Right, Mr. Edwards, if they do get this in a case study, don't use your own words. Try to remember these specific ones: lack of proper communication, unrealistic deadlines. Although the scenario doesn't say that, if you can link it to that, that is what they were looking for, unless they asked you to quote. Okay, if you quote, you use it verbatim, but in this case, go and search for those that mean one of these things, and you write down these words on your paper. Right, Mr. Edwards, are we moving on to grievances and conflict? I like this one.
Okay, so when we looked at the terms to remember, Ms. Van Zyl did allude to the fact that there is a difference between these two. Okay, no doubt at some stage, maybe in your prelims or in your final paper, you will be asked, distinguish between a grievance and conflict. Now, please remember that there is a difference. Do not get them confused. If we start with the grievance side of things, as a definition, when an employee has a problem or complaint in the workplace. Now, you can identify that that's generally going to be from employee to manager. So that's often a way to identify that it's a grievance, because it's employee to manager. There's a complaint between the two there. It is when an individual has a work-related issue. Okay, it's got to do with the workplace, a problem that they've got with the employer or the workplace itself. Maybe there's some conditions within the workplace that are unsavory or dangerous, for example. That would be a grievance. Now we move on to conflict. That is a clash of opinions in the workplace, clash of opinions between two or more parties. Okay, and that's important to remember. It's within the workplace, but it's not got to do with the workplace itself. You might have a conflict or a clash of opinions with a schoolmate, a peer. It's not necessarily a grievance, because it might not be because of the workplace. It's possibly difference of opinion, difference in personalities. That is a conflict. So please keep that in mind. This could be upwards of 4 marks to distinguish or define the difference between the two. All right, that's grievance and conflict.
Mr. Edwards, there's also 2 different procedures here to work with. If you work with a grievance, there's a specific formal process that a grievance are handled in most businesses. We call it the grievance procedure. It's different for each business, but it follows basically the same step. Basically, it starts with your manager tries to solve the problem between you and that person at the lowest level possible. If there's no outcome, then a formal grievance form is filled in, and so forth. It's a formal process. And guys, I often see these in tests. When it comes to a grievance procedure, people start listing how to handle conflict. It's not the same thing. A grievance procedure is a formal, almost legal process that you need to go through. And it goes from one level to another. It's not, we're getting two people together to talk it out and we don't interrupt them. That's not what that is. That is conflict management. It's not grievance. Okay, so I need you to understand that quite well, because you can lose out on 6 marks in section B, or if it's in section C, upwards to 12 marks that you can lose because you misidentified which one you are going to do. Right. Now, Mr. Edwards, I'm going to go straight ahead with the conflict resolution techniques or steps. Now, guys, what you can see on your screen there is going to be on how to handle conflict, not a grievance. And if you have a note paper, please make a note here that this is conflict, not grievances. Right. The first one is acknowledge that conflict exists. Many people want to brush it under the carpet, and that means over time it boils over and it becomes a lot more serious. You need to acknowledge that it is there. Many people don't want to handle conflict at all. They want to rather shy away from it. But if you don't handle it, it is going to become a problem in the future. So first step, acknowledge that conflict exists. Secondly, you need to determine the causes of the conflict. Now, it sounds very simple. This guy hit that guy, or this guy swore at this guy. But it's actually deeper than that. And you need to go and find the root cause. Otherwise, you're going to solve a symptom, not a problem.
Yeah, and often there's different points of view there.
Absolutely.
Okay, if you ask the one person, they're going to have an opinion. You ask someone else, and they're going to have a completely different statement. So it's important to use that when defining the cause of the conflict as well.
Right. Okay, the next one is invite conflicting parties to state their views separately. So with other words, guys, you can either speak to one person alone and then another person, and we can get the bigger picture as the mediator. But each person must have the chance to speak without being interrupted first. Right. The next one says, arrange a time and place for the conflicting employees to meet. I've now heard the one side of the story. I've heard the other side. Now I'm going to put them together. I have my idea of what is wrong here, and now we can start mediating, being the person in the middle that's trying to sort out this conflict. Right. Invite the conflicting parties or employees to a joint meeting. You explain the purpose of the meeting. The reason why we need to explain the purpose is because one person always assumes that I've done something wrong and now I'm in trouble. Now, you want to put them at ease. Remember, the tensions are already high. You want to get them as calm as possible. You explain to them what this is about, that we are trying to find a solution to the conflict, and then we can further on more easily solve the problem. Right. The next one is allow each employee to express his or her views. Encourage conflicting employees to accept that their views are different, and then you evaluate the views and express and make an objective decision. You say you determine between all of you in that meeting who values what statement more, so you can find common ground as quickly as possible. Now, guys, I've gone through this very quickly. The way you need to do this is you need to either suggest ways on how conflict can be resolved. You can explain the conflict resolution techniques like you see there. And I would like you to remember any 4 of these bullet points, not more than 4, because you will never be asked to actually do more. And if it is in a section C question, 4 would still be enough. And if you get 4 for all your subtopics, you should be able to get your 32 marks easily. So don't remember 4. And normally these steps also doesn't have to be in order. So to make your studying a lot easier, make sure that you can remember 4 of these, and you should be good to go. Right. Guys, the next one that we are going to do is strategies to deal with difficult personalities. Now, guys, once again, we are going to deal with how to handle conflict. But then we have something like difficult personalities, and each of these difficult personalities have their own way to deal with those people. But then we also have a memo that says what are the strategies to deal with difficult people in general. Then it's not a specific thing, that's a different memo. I know it's very confusing, but you guys need to be able to see that. If they speak about, for instance, how to deal with a complainer or how to deal with an expert, those are specific things to that expert. But if they haven't given you any indication of what difficult personality you deal with, then it's the general memo that you guys need to give. Right, so let's quickly go through this. Now guys, these are specific difficult people. The first one is a complainer. A complainer is this guy that you can never please. He complains about everything. The problem with the complainer is it brings the morale of the entire place down. That's the person that stands at the coffee machine and tells them how hard he works and why nobody listens to them and they just want to dish out more work. That's a complainer. Now guys, you get them in any business that you will get to in any organization. And as a manager, there are specific suggestions on how to deal with the complainer. So let's just quickly have a look at how to deal with the complainer. Listen to the complaints, but don't acknowledge them. If you acknowledge them, this guy gets validation that he is actually correct and he will keep on complaining. You don't acknowledge it, but you listen. You make sure that he knows that you listen, but you don't acknowledge that that is actually a worthy complaint. Right. Interrupt the complainer after a while and proceed with strategies to deal with the issues raised. Okay, so you need to stop this person complaining and start immediately working on the solutions. Right, because otherwise this guy is going to drag you down into his negativeness. Right, so that is what we try to avoid. Now guys, on the screen there you have the next one, and that says indecisiveness. Now guys, an indecisive person is a person that can just never make a decision. You know, he doesn't know, must I go with this color or this one? Or if I want to use this PowerPoint background or this one, they find it very hard to make a decision. And that holds the entire process of somebody else up as well. We rely on this guy to finish his work, but he can just never get ahead because he can't make a decision. Now that is a difficult personality. He's not yelling and screaming at you or bring the morale down. He's just slow because he doesn't want to commit himself to a decision. He overthinks things very, very easily. So these are the suggestions on how to deal with an indecisive person. Right, the first one that we can do is we can suggest alternative approaches and guide them. The problem is there's already too many alternatives. We need to guide them on how to evaluate these different alternatives because he's going to get stuck on all of these different options. Highlight the importance of decision making, the importance for him to make a decision so that we can move forward. He needs to understand that, or she for that matter, and the consequences of the delaying of that decision. Because guys, you wait for this guy to finish his work so somebody else can carry on because, you know, we work together. So that is very important that things get done quicker. Right, I'm going to carry on, guys, to the next people. Then you have an over-agreeer. Now, guys, this is your typical yes man. A yes man is a person that never goes against whatever people say. If you ask him, would you do this for me? He will always say yes. And eventually, those people can overload themselves so easily that there's no time for other things to do and they're overcommitted. And also, they don't really go against decisions that you've made. So that's a bit of a problem because you need the input of people, the honest input of people in order for a team to move ahead. So let's quickly see how do we work with an over-agreeer. Be firm with the employee and don't allow her to let them make promises that they cannot keep. Yes, sir, I will do it. Yes, sir, I will do it. And the next guy that asks, yes, I will do it. Eventually, nothing gets done because this guy is overloaded. So make sure that they don't make promises or accept things that you know they cannot do. Right, the next one, monitor the progress of the duties assigned to that employee. If you can see that this person is struggling, they've taken on too much, and you need to help manage their workflow a lot better. Right, the next person that we've got is the negative person. Right, a negative person is almost the same as the complainer. They're always negative about everything. It brings down the morale very easily. Right, so how do we deal with people that are inherently negative? The first one is listen to the employee, but do not agree with them. Almost the same as that you don't acknowledge a person's complaint.
Yeah.
Okay, you say, I'm listening to you, but you don't commit yourself that you say that what you say is true. That you don't do, because then it gives them validation that they are actually correct, and they will do it the next time again. Okay, the next one, allow the employee to express their views, but do not own the negativity. Don't play that game. Don't say, yes, you have a right to be negative. Yes, I'm also negative. Then it gives them validation, and you've all heard the phrase that misery seeks company. Now that's basically what is happening there. Right.
I think if I can just add something there, it is important, as you can see with the strategies for a complainer and a negative person, to allow these people to actually have their say. Because as soon as you say, okay, that enough is enough, they might become a little bit antagonistic, or they might be antagonized, and that's where maybe a little bit of conflict might come out of this. So it's important, these people want to be heard, but you don't necessarily need to agree with them, and that's a point that needs to be made.
Yes. Right. We've got some more ones. The next one is an expert. Now, guys, an expert, I don't know if you guys have watched The Big Bang Theory. Now, that is your typical Sheldon Cooper. He always knows more than you. He always is better than you. And he's trying to catch you out on small little things that you might not have known, because it makes him feel better. Right, so how do we deal with an expert? You listen to them, but let them know that you are in control of the situation. That's the whole idea behind an expert. An expert wants to show you that he's better than you and that he should actually be in control. Don't let that happen. The next one, let him know that you value their inputs, but you'll also consider other alternatives. These are the types of people that do not agree with anybody else. That only their view is of note, because they feel that they are the only ones that are actually right. That is how an expert works. And you also find them in any organization that you might get into. Right. The next person is the quiet person. Now, guys, what we want when we employ people, we want them to use their creativity, their input, to get the maximum out of them. We don't just want somebody to push a pen. We want somebody to work together, to collaborate. And quiet people find this very difficult to do. When you have a brainstorming session, this is the kind of person that will rather sit in the corner and not contribute. These are the people also that might have the brightest ideas, but never bring that to the fore. And you as the business then miss out on opportunities because they didn't speak when they had to speak. So how do we deal with difficult people to get them to collaborate? Right. We give the employees sufficient time to express their views on the issue. That means that the experts and all of those people sometimes need to be quieted down. Say, okay, hang on, let's give this person a time to speak. Don't rush them in order to give an answer. You need to tell them to take their time and formulate what they want to say properly. Right, the next one, do not use the delay in responding by the employee to express your views. That means I'm filling their silence up with words. All what's going to happen is this guy feels that you are not validating them, and they are going to retract again, and they're going to be quiet. Let there be the awkward silence, so it gives them time to formulate their thoughts properly and contribute effectively. Right, and then the last one, affirm the employee, but acknowledge by acknowledging the inputs provided. If they give a suggestion, guys, People thrive on recognition. If they get recognized for a valid input that they've given, they might be enticed to do it the next time again, and it will become easier for them to collaborate, and that is what you want to achieve. Right, guys, I'm going on a bit here. There's also aggressive people. Now, guys, an aggressive person is the guy that screams and shouts at everything. That is their way of managing conflict. They go on the attack very easily. Now, guys, these are the most difficult people to deal with, and this is where a manager needs to be really firm. So let's see how you deal with an aggressive person. Provide the employee with sufficient time to express himself. Refrain from attacking their views that will draw you into confrontation, and protect other employees from being intimidated by the employee. Now, I'm going to summarize this. Guys, do not let these people be aggressive with anybody else, because that will bring more and more and more conflict. So don't ever allow this person to speak to anybody else that way. Guys, there's also another thing. If you try to attack them back, he's shouting at you, and now you're shouting at him, all that's going to happen is two people fighting. What works best is to let this guy in an office, not in a public space, in an office, blow off steam, and then you can provide them calmly when they are calm with the facts, and sometimes they feel like complete idiots because they have been aggressive about nothing. So, guys, this is the way that you deal with these people. Do not attack them, because the moment that you do that, you're just going to make this aggressiveness a lot bigger. So let them blow off steam, and then you speak calmly when they are calm. Right. Now, there's a note there that says you should be able to identify the different personalities from the given scenarios. That is absolutely true. And guys, you also need to give suggestions on how to work with each of these different personalities. And remember, you can say you have seen their ways to deal with conflict. That is the general memo. But the moment that they put specific personalities there, you need to tell them how to deal with that specific person. So two different memos that you need to look out for. Right. Ways of dealing with difficult employees. Guys, this is the generalized version. If they haven't given you any specific difficult personality to do, then you're going to give them this memo. So it is arrange a private meeting with the difficult employee to avoid being distracted whilst dealing with the issues. State clearly the purpose of the meeting. Now, guys, you can go through all of this. It's almost the same as dealing with conflict. Okay, but you can go through that, and once again, guys, do not use or try to remember more than 4 bullet points. It's not necessary. It's just going to clutter your memory. So 4 of these bullet points should be enough for you to get the marks that you are looking for. Right. And there's going to be an example question for you. Right. List 4 criteria for successful teams. Now remember, as we said, it is list the criteria. Okay, that was the first slide, and I told you there's a difference between the criteria and what is the other word, characteristics. So this is the criteria: interpersonal attitude, shared values, communication, collaboration. Normally, if it's list, it will be 1 mark each, and that will then be 4 marks, 1 mark each. You don't have to explain it, just list it. If they said to you discuss, then you had to put the other 1 bullet point there, but this case was only list. Right, then indicate which of the following statement refers to a grievance or a conflict. Now, if you could remember back, I told you grievance is, or Mr. Edwards told you, a grievance is between an employer with the workplace, with his employer, between employer and employee. That is a grievance, right? And conflict is between 2 people. Right, so let's quickly have a look. When an employee is unhappy, has a problem, complaint in the workplace, then that is, of course, a grievance. A disagreement between 2 or more parties in the workplace is conflict, and it is when an individual group has a work-related issue. When it's a work-related issue, it already refers to a grievance. Right. Then guys, the next question says state. Now you can see state is a lower order question, guys. It doesn't ask you to really explain anything. State is just recall from memory. Now the other thing that's very important with that question, it says state 4. Now the marker is instructed to only mark the first 4 responses. So guys, if you've given 6 responses, the first 2 are incorrect and the next 4 are correct, you're only going to get 2 out of the 4 because you are instructed as the marker to only mark the first 4. Don't even try to provide 5 or 6 or 7 because they will draw 2 lines through it and say cancel. So be aware of those kind of questions. So state 4 causes of conflict in the workplace. Okay. There you go. Differences in background, culture, limited business resources, different goals. You don't need to explain any of these things. You just mention it, and that is for 1 mark each. Right. And guys, and then we've got a couple of section A questions. Read the scenario below and answer the questions that follow. Identify the correct answer with reference to the stages of team development. Right, storming, norming, arranging, performing. Now, the incorrect answer there would of course be, because we know that storming and norming and performing is all stages of team development. So the only one that's wrong there is of course arranging. Right, the next one, suggest alternative approaches and guide the employee through alternatives. Is an approach used to deal with what difficult personality? Remember, this is the guy that cannot make decisions. So that is indecisiveness. The following are criteria for successful teams: shared values, collaboration, communication. And in this case, guys, you will never find a question in a question paper that says all of the above. It is actually frowned upon if we do that. So the answer to that one, of course, is all of the above. Now guys, they are telling me that we need to try to finish off this section, Mr. Edwards. I'm going to just quickly go through, just flash a couple for them. Identify the incorrect answer with reference to grievance, personality clashes as a cause of conflict, unrealistic expectations. Section B type questions that we've got here. Bobby Builders. Identify the cause of conflict at Bobby Builders. Motivate your answer by quoting. Now guys, I just want to tell you, the moment that you have to quote, you need to do this verbatim, exactly like it is from the case study. Do not use your own words. The moment that you do that, it's not a quote anymore, and you are going to miss out on a very easy 1 mark. You can see that it is for 3 marks. You will get 2 marks for the identification and 1 mark for your quote that's coming directly from the case study. Right, identify the cause of conflict. The manager at Bobby Builders and the building supervisor finds it difficult to agree with each other, which has caused a lot of conflict. Now that could be differences in background, and then you just quote that sentence there. Right, and discuss how business should handle conflict in the workplace. Now guys, that conflict is that memo that you guys have done generally. Right, then in section C, or essay type questions, there's an example for you. Now guys, we are going to end the session on this. Just remember, when you do a section C question, there must be the word introduction, there must be a conclusion, and you see each of these bullet points you can use as headings in the body. The moment that you do that, then you have an easy 5 marks just there without actually knowing anything of the topic that you are required to write about. So guys, this is about it that we have time for this afternoon, and I would like to thank my colleague Mr. Peter Edwards for being here, and I really enjoyed my time here, Mr. Edwards, and I really hope that the matrics for the prelims that's coming up is going to do very well. And guys, if you follow the guidelines that we've tried to give you throughout these sessions, what to look out for, how to answer questions, then guys, it cannot go anything else but well for you. Right, guys, I would like to thank you and have a very good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everybody.